You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nika Monford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snobbish Show, the show for all things Apple, where we are Apple snobs and we talk about Apple things and then some. And I just completely screwed that up, but you know what? We are gonna keep rolling with it because we are the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to give you a quick shout out and thank you for tuning into the show and your continued support. Also, if you want to get some exclusive content and watch the show live, you can become a Patreon supporter by heading on over to patreon.com/snoboscast. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the show this week. We're going to kick it off with our first segment, The Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. And it seems to be all things Apple are surrounded by Vision Pro. Right. Vision Pro launches tomorrow. And so you're getting a little bit of precursor first because we're recording a little bit later. But there is currently, if you go over to the Apple website, they actually have a clock countdown on the homepage of Apple. So we're finally seeing some of that quote unquote Apple magic when it comes to launching a new device. To me, the rollout has been a little bit kind of weird and kind of off kilter from what Apple normally does, but they are trying to, I guess, get back into the normal swing of things, get the hype up, and they have done so by having that countdown on the homepage of apple.com. Also to note, when this device hits your doorsteps or when you hit the Apple Store to pick up your device, a second software update is going to be ready for consumers. So we have the OS is Vision OS. So Vision OS 1 is the first version of it, but you will need to get a patch. So it'll be Vision OS 1.0.2. And apparently it's a pretty big fix, a big security fix that comes with this second upgrade. So are you excited? Are you interested? Or are you?
No, but I mean, I'm interested in seeing all of the reviews and just to see how the actual product stacks up to what we've been talking about, all the rumors, all the leaks, all the things that we've been discussing over the past couple months. Just a heads up real fast. If you're listening to this show right now and you are not a Patreon supporter, the clock will pretty much have ran out because by the time you listen to this show, people will already be getting their Vision Pros. Now, if you are a Patreon supporter, you're getting this show a little bit earlier. If not, pretend like today is Friday for us. But yeah, other than that, just interested to see, of course, the compatibility as far as what all you can do in real world versus we've heard that, you'll be able to do some Apple native things. There are some third-party developers, but everybody's kind of like, oh, well, what will I be able to do once I spend $3,500, $4,000? Will I get my money's worth up front or will I have to wait for weeks and months and maybe even a year or so before everybody figures out what the Vision Pro is and what people want to use it for? Because it's one thing for Apple to say, this is spatial computing and it's productivity. People get it. And we all as consumers decide, no, this is watching Netflix or this is watching NBA games courtside. Once we kind of figure out what we decide Vision Pro is, then Apple's got to say, all right, do we point them in the right direction or do we change the whole model to suit how people are using it? Once they figure that out, then it'll be interesting to see if this thing really takes off.
So that leads directly into our next article. So Vision Pro at launch will have 600 native apps. And I am on this website and it has an ad that is literally blocking the whole screen. But yeah, so it comes with 600 native apps. I'm trying to get this off of my screen so that I can tell you what some of them are. So iMore is really being lame. Okay, so here are a couple of the, I guess, top apps that I think people will want have interest in. PGA Tour Vision, which is a golf app. You will be able to watch golf with real-time shot tracking, 3D models of the course, key stats, and more. Speaking of the NBA, you can watch up to 5 broadcasts live or in demand with multi-view alongside live stats and scores. MLB, you can watch baseball with views from home plate. Red Bull TV, I'm assuming that's Formula One Red Bull.
No, they do random.
They do regular
crazy things.
Oh, okay. Well, you can watch races with 3D maps and immersive environments and IMAX. You can watch 2D and 3D movies and shows in IMAX expanded ratio. So those are like the key, I guess, like real-time things you can do with Vision Pro along the sports side. It also is coming natively with some games. I've never heard of these games. I'm not a huge gamer, so they may be very popular. I don't know. But the list that they have as of now: Game Room, What the Golf, Cut the Rope 3, Jetpack, Joyride 2, Bloons TD6 Plus, Stitch, Pattern Illustrated, and Wild Flowers. I don't know what those things are. Apple also says Vision Pro will help users, quote, explore new places with exciting apps that include Voyager, which is a spatial air traffic controller simulator. So I guess you're going to be able to fly a plane or a spaceship or something along that, type of lane. They also highlight other experiences, which includes apps for music, shopping, home improvements, and mindfulness. I'm assuming that mindfulness may play into the mindfulness app on Apple Fitness Plus. So 600 apps that are going to be ready once you hook yourself up. And then you can also apparently run Vision Pro on more than 1 million apps from iPhone and iPad, but only in 2D, so you don't get that full spatial computing view. And of course, developers are adding apps more and more, I guess, each day. So there are some things that you'll be able to do on the, I guess, entertainment side. On the productivity side, Microsoft announced that 365 apps will be on Vision Pro, including Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, and Loop. These will be available at launch. Now, I don't know. It's very interesting. So looking at some of the screenshots from Microsoft, it looks like you will be able to create your PowerPoint from, your virtual world. And I know I saw another picture where it was like a kitchen, and it was like a big spreadsheet, like right above the kitchen sink. So I guess you could wash dishes and look at a spreadsheet at the same time. So it looks like they have some fun stuff, and probably one of the biggest productivity tools there is, the Microsoft Office suite, that are going to be available at launch, which is, by the time you're hearing this, will be now.
All right. So the team stuff, I'm pretty sure Microsoft Office products, you probably won't be able to do the grabbing and pinching and moving around. You're more likely have to connect a keyboard and a mouse. Of course, Apple's Magic Keyboard and Magic Mouse to actually use those productivity. So to me, the productivity stuff with the Vision Pro, it'd be more like a virtual computer monitor, and you use the
Mm,
keyboard and the mouse or a trackpad to actually be productive versus everything won't be fingers and air keyboard
no.
typing and things like that. That'll slow down productivity, which defeats the purpose of productivity.
Right.
So I would assume that would be the case until, Apple does figure out how to make the air gestures more seamless.
Mm-hmm.
But on the entertainment side, I was watching Brian Tong. He's a big Apple guy, and he's on YouTube, and
Mm-hmm.
he was doing a demo of the NBA app that you
Mm.
mentioned in a previous story, and it looked pretty interesting. You
Okay.
can watch multiple games, like you can drag games to different areas, so you can be watching one game on the main area, and then
Mm.
off to the side you can put like two or three games stacked up or down, so you can watch like multiple games at the same time. And they had kind of like the same view that we kind of talked about before with some of the other Oculus and things like that, to where they give you like a courtside seat.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, personally, if I was interested in anything as far as Vision Pro is concerned, it would be doing that, because again, like we mentioned in our pre-show, going outside is hella expensive. So if I feel like spending $4,000 is worth it to just feel like I'm attending 2 to 5 games, that's almost like
Mm-hmm.
your money's worth, because like we talked about parking and concessions and tickets, and because everything is
Just
expensive.
people.
So right. So while the Vision Pro is expensive, if there is enough entertainment, especially like NBA, like you mentioned, MLB, NHL, ML, football and basketball, if that is enough and that is like a good experience, you could pay for Division Pro in a year
Yeah.
versus, going to an actual game. I mean, I know
Yeah.
everybody likes to go to games, be in the building, and all that is a special thing, but for those of us who don't care, and if I had a choice between going to a game and sitting on my couch and getting a in-game like experience, I'll pay for the
Mm-hmm.
in-game experience every single time.
Yeah. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how all this pans out. Terrence and I, if you're listening to this show this morning, we will be joining DTNS on Friday afternoon to talk a little bit more Vision Pro. And by that time, the device will be out in people's hands. So we'll probably have a little bit more insight on to as to what the actual device looks like, what it does, what it can't do, some initial reactions from people. So definitely tune in for that. Now, I did say that most of the chatter from Apple was around the Vision Pro, which is warranted. However, we talked a little bit last week about Apple complying with the EU App Store changes. There was a big lawsuit, Apple versus Epic. There were 10 counts or 10 things that were in this lawsuit. Apple won 9 of those 10. So the one remaining was related to the App Store and having Apple people use or sell their apps through third party. Well, Apple got that. That's the count that they did not win. So Apple said, okay, we now have to do this third party link. So we are going to do that, and we are going to put it in place. We're going to comply with the EU. We will be compliant. We don't want any more sanctions. So yeah, so Apple said, okay, we'll do it. This is how we'll do it. Now we have Spotify, we have Epic, and we have Microsoft raining holy terror about the way that Apple has decided to comply with the EU's regulations. So the biggest thing that it appears to be is that, again, Apple is going to allow for this third party link for apps. But what happens is for Apple to implement this, they have enacted what is called the core technology fee. And what this core technology fee does, it requires developers using third-party app stores to pay a 50 cent in euro fee for each annual app install after 1 million downloads. Well, Spotify is calling it extortion. Epic is calling it hot garbage. Someone else is calling it, they are not happy. So in addition to this fee, Apple is still going to get a 17% commission off that, as opposed to the flat 30% commission fee. Now, the 30% commission fee still stands if you use Apple's App Store. But if you try and use a third-party app store, that's where the 50 cent per download and the 17% commission comes into play. Well, like I said, the girls are not happy with this. So it comes down to, well, you said you wanted to be able to use a third-party app store. Went to court. They said we had to do it. We're doing it. Now you're whining at the way that we choose to implement it, which you don't get to choose how we implement it. So now I think Epic is saying that Apple is not complying with the ruling because they're doing their fee structure different. So no one's happy about these changes. So thoughts, because the EU has to review this plan and sign off on it, or I guess Apple has to go back to the drawing board as to how to implement this.
Right. So the three companies you mentioned, Spotify, Microsoft, and Epic, have some of the most popular apps on an iPhone in the App Store for the most part. Spotify rivals Apple Music. Microsoft, that's just a de facto productivity suite. I'm pretty sure everybody and their mama downloads that. And then Epic was Fortnite, which is the popular game, right? So all of these companies have something to gain from crapping on Apple, how Apple is complying with the EU, right? Because if Apple were to magically reduce the amount or the fee structure or commission or whatever the case may be, these companies would gain the most, because there's so many people downloading, paying for subscriptions, things like that, that they, companies,
in-app purchases, all that stuff.
Right. Companies watch their bottom line, and for Apple to be taking 30% plus whatever they're doing, even though Apple is complying, air quotes, with the EU ruling, that wasn't enough. That wasn't the argument. The argument was never Apple should open up and allow third-party apps and allow people who buy the phones the freedom to do what they want on the phones. That was never the argument. The argument was, we don't want to pay Apple 30%. That's the argument. And that's fine, because you're a business. You want to cut costs wherever you can. And for somebody to be taking 30% of anything is a lot. But again, this is Apple we're talking about. Do you want to make, how's the phrase go? Do you want to make 30% of something, or do you want to make 70% of nothing? Right. Or 100% of nothing, rather. Right. So especially with Apple, it'd be one thing if it was some company that where you really not seeing the benefit of being in the App Store. You're seeing a real benefit for being in the Apple App Store, but again, businesses want to cut costs. So
they want more money.
They want more money. So it makes sense for them to say, we don't want to pay the 30%. But my problem is that wasn't your argument. Your argument was Apple shouldn't be so restrictive, and this is a monopoly, and Apple is not being fair to their app developers by putting all these restrictions. And it should be, if consumers are paying $1,200 a phone, they should be able to install apps from anywhere, which is true. I mean, which is an argument to make, but that wasn't y'all argument. That's my thing. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out with Microsoft, they tax people 30%, game developers 30% to be in the Xbox game store. So it's like, what are y'all talking about? Shut up. Y'all on.
We gotta piggyback off these other two people, so maybe it'll take some of the heat off us.
Yeah, this lady, Sarah Bond, who is Xbox president, her quote was, "We believe constructive conversations drive change and progress towards open platforms and greater competition. Apple's new policy is a step in the wrong direction. We hope they listen to feedback on their proposed plan and work towards a more inclusive future for all." This is the same Xbox that got dinged in the EU for forcing Internet Explorer on all of the computers. And then, again, like I mentioned, this is the same Microsoft who owns Xbox, to where if I create a game and I put it in Xbox, Xbox is going to tax me 30%. So it's like, where's the hypocrisy of Microsoft to be wagging their finger at Apple from things that they are just as guilty of doing is crazy, right?
Right. And my thing is, you wanted to be able to have a third-party app store. You got that. You won. You should be cheering. Yay.
That wasn't an argument.
Well, that's what they pose it as, but we all know the underlying effect is money. They didn't want to have to pay that 30%. So the thing is, you got a third-party app store, which is what you were contending was the issue. That was the monopoly. So you got the third-party app store. You didn't want to pay the 30%. You don't have to pay that 30% anymore. It's almost halved. It's now down to 17%. Now, this core technology fee was the ringer that they were not expecting. So my thing is it Uchiwali? Is it one mic? What do you want exactly? You want it to be free. You don't want to have to pay any fees, but we know that's not going to happen. But for the main concessions, all the things that they brought up, those 10 counts or whatever, it all boiled down to, like you said, that 30% fee that came off top, off rip. You're not seeing none of that. But now you got it down to 17%, and now you have this core technology fee. I think I saw somebody did a comparison where they ran the numbers where it was with the core fee included, the new way you calculate the fees and the old way. And I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I think one of them with the original premise was like $145K in fees. And I think the new one with this new proposed plan was like $550K or something. So the vast number, because again, it's 50 cents per download after 1 million apps. So each time someone downloads and installs your app, you got to pay 50 cents. And you can't stipulate, right? You can't stipulate how someone chooses to enforce to comply with the ruling just because you don't like it. You don't get to be up in arms and call it extortion, call it hard garbage.
In America, you do. But the question is, how far are you going to get with that? Right. Because, in America, we'll sue anybody. We'll complain about any and everything. But the question is that going to be enough for the EU to decide Apple has to do more? Right. Yeah. Apple has, according to Apple, of course, has complied. And Apple is like, all right, we complied. Wash our hands. Now it's up to the EU to decide that you complied or there's more work. And I don't know if these companies speaking out is trying to, nudge the EU in a certain direction, but I'm hoping they can see the game for what it is.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if the EU would have a leg to stand on, because the point was to, quote unquote, break up the monopoly and allow users to have a third-party app store, which they've done. There was no stipulation on how that should happen. They just said you got to do it. And Apple did it. And I don't see the grounds that the EU would have to say, no, you can't do it this way.
Well,
Because
stranger things have happened.
true, very true, very true. So this is definitely, I think many people thought that this was kind of winding down because the ruling came down. Apple made a proposal, but it's like it's ramped back up because some of the heavy hitters don't like this core technology fee. So more to come. We'll see how it plays out. That is going to wrap up Second String. The Lowdown. We're going to go into Second String where we talk all other tech. Well, Apple is not the only one who can do petty. Meta has confirmed that they are bringing spatial video playback to their Quest headsets, their VR headsets, and they're doing it. They confirmed this one day before the launch. So they announced this today. So it looks like they're trying to step on a little bit of Apple's news cycle with the launch of Apple Vision Pro, with Meta saying that, hey, we too can do some sort of spatial computing, and we're doing that with spatial video, and we are allowing you to use our headset for spatial video. And they're saying, hey, yoo-hoo, don't forget about us. Meta is saying the features and enhancements will gradually become available starting the week of February 7th, 2024, and will be pushed to Meta Quest 3, Meta Quest Pro, and Meta Quest 2 headsets, end quote. So how do you feel about Zuckerberg's petty?
Actually, I don't think it's petty at all. I think it makes sense to me that Meta would offer spatial video playback. To me, well, not to me, that seems totally different than spatial computing in general, because you think of spatial computing. When I think of spatial computing, I think of you having a virtual monitor or monitors, and you can virtually, spatially move, drag, click with your finger, yada, 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 without having a physical computer in front of you, right? Meta is a VR headset that people use for gaming and video playback. The iPhone is one of the few, if not only devices, not only, let me not say it.
Mobile devices.
Mobile device, right? Personal device that can record spatial video. So it would make sense for Meta to say, all we got to do is flip a switch, run some software and enable iPhone users to be able to use Meta or whatever they're calling it to play back on their devices. I don't think that's going to dig into Apple's, people considering buying a Vision Pro, and then Meta come out with this feature and people are like, oh, well, never mind then, I'll just get the $300-$400, whatever, however much the Quest costs. But, I don't think that's going to sway anybody. But I do think this is a good idea for Meta to say, hey, it's spatial video. That's something that looks good on a VR headset. Let's go ahead and turn it on.
Yeah. So the spatial video gallery, again, as you mentioned, iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, they can record spatial videos, and you will be able to use those headsets during the mobile app on Quest. So the only, I guess, caveat is that the spatial video length is limited to 20 minutes. So anything more than 20 minutes, I'm assuming in one, video won't be playable. So if you're doing a movie, you'll have to do, if it's an hour movie, you have to break it up into 3 different chunks of 20 minutes to get it to play on the either any of the 3 Quest headsets. And it seems like it will work on all 3 of them. And this will start to roll out on February 7th. So Meta, kind of jumping on and saying, hey, we do spatial stuff too. It works with, from iPhone. Hey, don't forget about us. If you don't want to spend, $3,500 $4,000 on the headset, you can still get some sort of spatial technology on the headset that you paid a couple $100 for that you already have. So Facebook and Zuckerberg sliding in on that wave. All right, that is going to wrap it up for a second string. We're going to head on over into For the Culture, where we talk things related to social constructs, community, sports, entertainment, anything that may be going on in society that we want to talk about. And again, since this is the very first day of Black History Month, we have been doing for the last few years, Teching While Black, and we are going to continue that trend of highlighting technology leaders and innovators that are Black and what they contribute to our community. So the first person up for this year is interesting. I just saw this yesterday on Twitter. The person we're highlighting, he posted this again. And the person we're highlighting is Isaac Barnes. He is the president of Eminent Future. So Mr. Barnes is a 39-year-old entrepreneur. And he's from Michigan. I believe he's based out of Atlanta. And like I said, he is president of Eminent Future, which is a Black-owned tech firm that mainly works in the federal space. He started out in the military, in the Marines, went to night school, and in addition to that, ended up becoming a software developer and data analyst, I believe. Yes. And he's worked, like I said, in the federal government space. He developed tools that are used by Marines globally. He ended up working for the Secretary of Defense at the Pentagon, where he helped to design tools to help modernize the military. And I think probably what he is most known for as of recent is that he is the first person to, facilitate, lead, being awarded a $13.4 billion defense contract with the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Space Force. So again, 39-year-old entrepreneur, started out in the Marines, went through become a software developer, software analyst, president of Eminent Futures, which led to him becoming to be the first person that was awarded this type of contract, $13.4 billion from the government.
Well, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. So definitely great to see that. And, making history by being awarded this huge contract. Right. So we salute you, Mr. Isaac Barnes. All right. Into For the Culture. Hopefully, we don't have to talk too much about this, but I did want to bring it up. Earlier this week, Meg Thee Stallion, a Houston rapper, released a track called Hiss, which is being deemed as a diss track. She doesn't name anyone specific in this song, but if you follow social media, you can kind of suss out the different people that she is aiming at. If you remember, last year, Tory Lanez was convicted of shooting her in the foot, where he ended up getting 10 years in prison, which he is currently serving. And there were a lot of, I believe we talked about this, there were a lot of misogynistic, misinformation, type of things that came out of that, where she kind of just ghosted, social media, the public, while all of that was going on. So it appears as if this track was her. She said, I think at the beginning, this is her first and her own, this is her last time even, acknowledging or addressing any of this. Well, song went viral, video, everybody's talking about it, super popular. Well, there's one particular artist that has, who ranted for about 3 days straight about this particular song, which was Nicki Minaj, who took offense to a line in the song where she referenced Megan's Law. Didn't say anything about Nicki, didn't mention her. Megan is her name.
Well,
she didn't mention her. I'll say she didn't mention her directly, but she referenced Megan's Law, which is a law that was created to help identify sex offenders and pedophiles. It was named after a little girl, Megan. Oh shoot, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It starts with a K. I don't want to jack it up. It was named after her neighbor, killed and assaulted and killed her. I think she was 7, when this happened. And so that spurned the law. So she made reference to that law in her song. You might say, well, how does this relate to Nicki Minaj? Well, the man that Nicki married, her husband, is a registered sex offender. He was convicted. I don't know if it was assault or rape or something in that sphere of things. So Nicki Minaj took offense to that and slight to that and just went on a rage. She did her own diss track. And if you know Nicki Minaj's fans, Barbs as they're called, they are a particularly rabid group of fans. And it really, it was bad enough, the things that were being said about her. But to me, it crossed the line when she started talking about Megan's mother, who passed away. Her grandmother has also passed away. Her fans leaked they were doxing people left and right, celebrities and non-celebrities alike, which includes doxing the place where her mother is buried, the cemetery where her mother is buried. And people meaning, the Barbs were alluding to going to either dig up her mother or deface her gravesite, so much as where the cemetery basically had to add extra security and still have extra security on that gravesite to prevent anyone from defacing her mother's grave. So it was a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, like I said, it went on for days, and and the thing that I think the biggest thing for me is a diss track. It's hip hop. People diss each other back and forth. That's not uncommon. What is uncommon is the doxing of people, cemeteries, equating. I think the latest thing that she has said or has done is she was trying to say, she was trying to capitalize like Rihanna did when Rihanna was assaulted by Chris Brown. So it's just really these things that are just, to me, it's one thing for her to say them, which is bad enough, but then for her fans to actually go and try and do things and her not say, whoa, guys, this is too much. Let's kind of bring this back in a bit. So the whole point of this is to say, has stan culture gone too far? Are we really at the point where you are willing to do illegal things because doxing people, defacing property are crimes, to support your favorite artists because someone else says something about them that you don't like, and a person who doesn't even, know who you are willing to go to these lengths to, I don't know, get the attention of your favorite person, your favorite artist, or what. It just seems to me that it's a bit unhinged. I saw Swarm
But that's not
and
anything. That's not anything new. People being unhinged, stalkers, stalking, attacking, and in many cases killing the people that they were stalking who happened to
who is
be
it, John
celebrities.
Lennon?
I'm not sure. Yes, maybe. I don't want to, but I know it's happened, and I know it's
Yeah.
happened frequently. We mentioned a week or so ago. We mentioned Taylor Swift. She stay have stalkers, people trying to do stuff to her. So the unhinged thing, while surprising, is not anything new. I think what makes it um, interesting, or what makes it in our face, is social media and the ability for us to know more about these celebrities, which takes the standing, being in love with an entertainer to a whole nother level, and then
Mm-hmm.
using that love to do crazy things to people who don't like your particular artist. Or if somebody else says something about your favorite artist, social media, the internet, gives us the ability to do a lot more, you know
It exacerbates an
right.
already volatile situation, especially if people aren't, quite safe. We talked about it. If you were a Patreon supporter, we talked about what happened on Twitter with Elmo. I think it just leads to the fact that there are some people who are really going through some things.
And it
And
manifests itself in different ways. And
right.
in this case, there are a lot of people who love entertainers, they love artists, they love celebrities, they love athletes. And whenever they make a move, it's very transparent nowadays because they're all over social media. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a reach, or not a stretch to see a person turn into, go from, oh, I'm just a fan of this person, to,
Mm-hmm.
oh, did you see what the last thing the person said on social media,
Mm-hmm.
to, oh man, I'm gonna stick up for my artist because I think she's the greatest, or I think he's the greatest, or I think they're the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna allow somebody to talk negative or say something negative to my favorite artist
Mm-hmm.
because they're my favorite artist. And in order for me to be right, y'all got to be wrong. So then you
Mm-hmm.
take it to the next level. But am I surprised by this? Absolutely not. Beefs between celebrities, beefs between entertainers, not necessarily just rap beef. This just happened to be two rappers, and
Mm-hmm.
rap beef is something that is popular, but it's not just solely focused on rap and hip hop. We've had all
Right.
kind of beefs between celebrities, entertainers, whatever the case may be.
Athletes, actors, I
Right,
mean, you name
right.
it.
So yeah, I'm not surprised that this is happening. You know, Personally, to be honest, the way I'm set up, if you say something bad about me, I'm going scorched earth. I'm going scorched earth. Ain't no
Mm-hmm.
rules. When you attack me, whether it be directly or indirectly, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to take that personal. Now, if I'm the type
Mm-hmm.
of person that's going to respond, I'm doing the whole, your mama, your daddy, your dead uncle,
Everybody.
everybody's going to get it. If you mention me directly or indirectly, you can't, don't, ain't no rules, right? Now they say there are rules, you're not supposed to talk about family, your family. Nope. Mm-mm. If you're going to say something about me, be ready for the response. Now, I'm not validating.
On wax. We're keeping it
Yeah,
on
no, yeah, sure. Person,
wax.
yeah, that's a talk. And yeah, I'm not going to do anything.
Sometimes you gotta be explicit because people
Yeah.
be peopling.
But that's not me validating or vindicating Nicki Minaj. My
Mm-hmm.
problem with Nicki Minaj is with all of the issues she and her particular husband are currently going through. Her responding to Megan Thee Stallion kind of validates the charges or the issues her husband has with being a sex offender,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Has she not said anything?
I mean, we
It
kind of
wouldn't be
knew,
like this. We knew, and people would say stuff, but
right,
it wouldn't be this.
right.
A week later.
And it's very clever. Megan Thee Stallion, like I said, I'm not validating or vindicating any of the things that she said either, but that Megan's Law line was pretty clever.
It
Very,
was
very, very, very
clever.
clever. And that's one thing about me. It's like if you are clever with what you're
Hmm.
saying, you can get away with anything as long
Yeah.
as it's clever. Now, if you just
Yeah.
are just got an axe to grind, clearly it's an axe to grind. But
Yeah.
that's very, very clever. So it's like
I
I
mean,
give you
artistry, right? It's like we were there for ether. We were there for,
even
the
those, even those.
sheether. I mean, we were there from, and they were clever and they were catchy,
I don't
even
even
though
think
it was
so.
like outright some stuff. You don't think it was?
I don't believe Ether, or which is Nas's diss towards Jay-Z and whatever I can't remember what Blueprint or whatever what Jay-Z's diss to Nas, but you
Mm.
could tell that all right, now it's personal. Same thing with
It
this.
was between these two people.
Right. But
There's no covertness about it.
at the same time, the lyrics of those songs were very directed and pointed. I hate you, you suck, your whole team sucks. That ain't clever. But for Megan to say y'all worried about Megan and you should be worried about Megan's Law, which is very poignant and very specific and very targeted, because according to some of the stuff I read on Nicki Minaj's husband, this is where that comes in play.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, Kenneth, I guess his name is Kenneth Petty, I think that's his
Yep.
name.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, Kenneth moves to Los Angeles. This is after he gets convicted of sexually assaulting or attempted rape of a 16-year-old when he was a kid. He went to jail, did his time or whatever, right? So after that, in 2020, he moves to Los Angeles, where he should have registered as a sex offender within
But did
5 days of his move. When he failed to register, he was sentenced to probation, house arrest, and a $55,000 fine. And it's a story that I'm reading. Like in Megan's diss track, the law requires that sex offenders register to their new address. Is called Megan's Law, which is why Nicki retaliated with her own track. So it was very targeted and very focused, but again, very clever. So
very
I got to give
clever.
her that. But I understand, while I wouldn't have brought, validated the diss.
And brought that extra heat.
Right. I can understand why she'd be like, all right, your mama, your daddy, your dead uncle, your grandma, your foot.
You got shot in the
Right.
foot.
Everything's out. So I get it. But to your bigger problem, it should just be between them. The fans going back and forth. It's like you don't have nothing better to do than to
Yeah.
be on the internet all day long, taking up for somebody you have never met, you are not related to, you are not on their payroll.
So much as sending. So it part of it came apparently. Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia. Him and Megan have collaborated a long time, and apparently Nicki wanted a sample for one of the songs that I'm assuming for a diss, and he wouldn't clear it for Nicki to use. So her fans doxed Juicy J and the other producer, not realizing that the house they doxed, even though it is in Juicy J's name, it was his mother's house.
Of course it was.
So is those type of things where even, you know what, it's annoying when the fans snipe at each other online going back and forth. But, in our, this parasocial society we're in with these stan cultures and fandoms, that's to be expected. For me, it crosses the line when it gets off of the music. It gets off of, when it enters into real life. You have people potentially showing up to an older woman's home for whatever reasons to do whatever. Or you have, people potentially, going to gravesites or going to other people's houses or sending death threats or saying, I'm going to shoot you, and do those things. To me is where it goes off of the deep end and goes a little bit too far and takes it from I won't say harmless intent, but the entertainment quality, meaning two rappers, going back and forth with disses. That's, what we've become accustomed to when it comes to artists, whether it be rap, whether it be R&B, whatever the case may be. That is, acceptable behavior, to do a diss track. But when it gets off of wax, so to speak, then that's where I think, we've kind of lost the plot on this whole thing.
Right.
So hopefully this last thing that she's done trying to pour Rihanna and her, domestic violence issue into this, hopefully she'll shift focus and start to do something else. Honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen, because I think a part of this whole thing is that Megan dropped the song. I think it's been like a chopped and screwed. It's different versions of it now, but she hasn't said anything to her fans about her. She's just gone on about her business, because again, at the beginning of the song, she said, I'm not talking about this no more after this. So I think, some people live off getting feedback or getting a response and going like back and forth on social media. That's kind of their thing. But I think the fact that she hasn't responded has just amped it up even more. And I really just wish we're in Black History Month. We're celebrating the excellence and the accomplishments and the rights and the struggles of Black people. Can we just focus on that?
Nope. I mean, my thing is I think we can, I'm going to say walk and chew gum at the same time. And these things are going to happen. I just wish it didn't get so much attention, maybe. But like you said, this is the internet where anything goes.
Absolutely. So I think Grammys are coming up soon. So hopefully focus will shift to music in a positive aspect. Well, that is going to wrap it up for the culture. Let's head on over to the hookup. Do we have a tech tip of the week?
Nope. Nothing this week.
All right. We will wrap it up with that. Brother Tech, tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva. Also, keep in mind, if you are listening to the show early or even late, you can listen or watch the playback. Terrence and I will be on DTNS talking Vision Pro, so definitely check that out. Again, to connect, to comment, to share, to support our show, you can head on over to snobOScast.com and get all of the details. That's going to wrap it up this week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.